There are hundreds of coaches and experts and gurus all over the internet who tell you how to improve your life. If you would actually follow all their advice and implement all the habits they recommend, you would wake up at 5 a.m., drink a glass of water with some added salt, take a cold shower, go for a walk in the morning, work out, stretch, meditate, get rid of all your stuff before you skip breakfast, and are unavoidably late for work. I have to admit that I did try out most of these habits at some point over the last 12 years, and I got sometimes more, sometimes less benefit from them. In this video, I'd like to talk about another habit that everybody from Marcus Aurelius to your grandmother recommends. It's something that I hesitated to try for the longest time, because the thought of doing it made me feel anxious. Little did I know that it would have a huge positive impact on my life within a few months. And this habit is journaling. I had heard about the beneficial effects of journaling for years. Still, the thought of writing down my unfiltered thoughts scared me. What if anyone else reads them? What if it makes them think differently of me? I put these silly worries aside after my friends gave me this wonderful fancy journal and an even greater pen before I moved to New Zealand last year in May. I decided to take it as a sign from the universe and committed to writing every day until it was full. I didn't mean to achieve anything specific. I was just curious. I wanted to focus on the process of writing, make it a habit, and see what happens. I started on August 31st, 2020, and wrote one double page every evening before going to bed, which took me about 15 minutes. I would write about whatever felt most pressing on my mind. On most days, one specific topic emerged as a winner, but on some days, I would write about multiple things. I wanted to write only for myself, my raw thoughts on the page, unfiltered and unedited. The first night I tried it, I felt elated. I gave my hand free rein to say whatever was going through my head. It felt like a dam broke. I felt freer and lighter, like a weight was lifted from my shoulders. I saw where this could go if I kept at it. Did I feel this kind of high every night? No, I never felt it again. A big part of it was definitely the rush of the new. Did it sometimes feel like a chore I had to force myself to do before going to bed? For sure. But I did enjoy writing, and I felt a positive change on most nights for the next 70 days. It helped me to process my emotions, organize my thoughts, and create new ideas. The first benefit I experienced was better emotional processing, especially when it comes to so-called negative emotions and states of anxiety and fear. I know that circumstances never cause problems, they reveal them. We only react to our interpretation of what happens. Problems arise when our unrealistic expectations clash with reality and we cannot let go. See, I know all this in theory, and sometimes I even apply it. But journaling helped me to do that to a far greater extent. I needed to overcome the fear of writing down all my ridiculous thoughts whenever I was in an anxious or fearful state. Just vomit it all onto the page. No holds barred. Seeing my thoughts on the page created some distance that was necessary for me to examine what goes on in my mind. It helped me to separate between the facts of the circumstances and my interpretation of it. This doesn't make the pain magically go away. I still need to allow myself to feel and express my emotions, but it leads much quicker to a state of acceptance and non-resistance. Journaling creates a form of outside feedback. You no longer experience your thoughts only in your head, you see them outside of yourself on the page. This gives you more clarity on what's actually going on. That's true when it comes to your emotions, but it's also true when it comes to your understanding. Most of the time, I wasn't in a bad state while I was writing. I was simply putting on the page whatever was going through my head. It might have been something I read that day, or a podcast I listened to. Often it turned out that my understanding was neither as deep nor as clear as I thought it was, while I kept my thoughts in my head. I needed to actively recall known information in order to actually remember and understand it. Merely thinking about it didn't cut it. I realized that if I wanted to learn and understand, I needed to write. After writing one page for 70 days, I had filled up this entire journal and changed who I was. I had become a writer. It wasn't even a question if I would continue or not, but I also saw a clear drawback to my paper journal. All the thoughts I had written down in the last 2 months seemed hard to access and kinda lost. Mind you, for most of them, that's really not a tragedy. But some ideas I wanted to revisit, build on them, and maybe share them at some point in the future. A paper journal makes this very difficult and tedious. That's why I decided to go digital. I now use a program called Logseq that allows me to tag and interconnect all my entries so I can archive them easily access and revisit them, build on them, and create a little web of knowledge and ideas that allows me a greater opportunity for output in the future. I no longer have a strict writing routine. I journal throughout the day on my Infinite Journal page. I write about what I do and work on. I capture what piques my interest. I celebrate my wins and process my pain. I'm not trying to tell you that you should start journaling. I'm not promising that you'll have a similar experience. I wanted to tell my story of how journaling gave me deeper insights into who I am, where I wanted to go, and what's holding me back. It brought me closer to myself by allowing me to distance myself from my thoughts. If it weren't for journaling, I'd still be more afraid to express myself, and I definitely wouldn't be doing these videos. But first and foremost, I learned that I simply love writing. If that resonates with you, give journaling a go. If not, that's okay too. Just like and subscribe instead.